Hi, I'm Tina Miller, author of the book But God. Today, Pastor Fraser, who is the head pastor at Cucamonga Christian Fellowship, is going to talk to us about But God number 59. He's a man of integrity and a great teacher. You're going to love this study.
Hi, my name is Fraser Venter, and I'm the pastor here at Cucamonga Christian Fellowship, and it's my pleasure to talk today about this incredible book called But God, written by a friend of ours, Tina Miller. And I wanted to start with one of the statements right on the back of the book that I thought was just so exceptional. She says this: "No one but God could use a phrase so small to lead you to revelation so monumental." And I thought that really just sums up this incredible devotional book that really gives us insight on those incredible but God moments. Really, two little words that I think could change your life. And it's been my privilege to read this book, really a pleasure, and now to be able to kind of share a little bit of how it's impacted me. Really, I'm honored, really honored. I'm going to do number 59 that says, "Set us up for success." So I'm going to read the passage and share a little bit about how that impacted my heart. I love it. 2 Chronicles chapter 6, 7 through 9, the Message version. "My father David very much wanted to build a temple honoring the name of God, the God of Israel, but God told him, 'It was good that you wanted to build a temple in my honor, most commendable. But you are not the one to do it. Your son, who will carry on your dynasty, will build it for my name.'" I love this story. A little backdrop, of course. You know, King David wants to build this magnificent temple for God. It makes sense. He's the guy who has his heart after God. And you know, I think when David was getting near the end of his life and he realized that he wouldn't have this opportunity, I know for me that must have hit his ego on every level. Here's a guy who did incredible things for the kingdom, incredible things for the people of God. He was prophet, priest, king. He was our Jesus type in the Old Testament. It just made absolute sense that he would be the one that would build God this magnificent temple. And of course, the story goes on that God says, "Hey, you can't do it, David. I know you've built this kingdom for me. You've done all this great work in partnership, but your hands have been the ones that have shed blood." And God takes that very seriously. "So I'm going to give this honor to your son." And I would have to imagine as a father and as a leader that, you know, going back into your room after hearing that from God, saying, "Man, God, I've done all of this stuff for you, and now I don't get to do the big thing, the thing that we've really been looking for and longing for, and you even kind of downloaded the whole idea of it into my mind, and I've seen it with my eyes, and I don't get to do it." I would think he would be a little frustrated. I love all the in-between spaces in the Bible, all those white spaces that I think they're the long conversations that we'll get a chance in heaven to talk a lot to these amazing heroes of our faith. Because I know for me, like David, he probably really thought, this is my opportunity to shine. This is my opportunity to make all the things that I've done really come out good and to say, I honor God. But that wasn't going to be the deal. David realized, I'm sure, after persisting with God in those quiet moments, that he wasn't going to get this privilege. You know, there's this Chinese proverb, and I love it. It's that idea that we planted a seed so it provides the shade for the next generation. And it's that idea that, you know, what we're going to do now will impact the future. And David had no idea, really, that at this point what he was going to do was going to impact the future of the kingdom of God forever. This whole template of the temple, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But I think what strikes me about this passage in the But God is that David had to get to a point to say, you know, God, you know, I'm not going to be the hero of this story. I'm not going to be the one that everyone goes, wow, look at the temple David built. This was all going to be to your glory ultimately, God, but I was going to hand over everything to my son. Not just all of my heart, not all of my psalms, but we read in, you know, 1 Chronicles 29 that he gives all of his treasure, and then he convinces all of his friends to give all of this treasure, technically towards something that he may never, ever, ever see. And that struck me so wildly as Tina, you know, shares this powerfully in her book, that there are many things that we contribute towards that we'll never get to see the fruit of. That really we are planting seeds so that there will be a shady tree for a future generation. A few years back, I was up in Paso Robles, and my in-laws own this really beautiful property, rolling hills and vineyards, and they have these enormous oak trees. They're amazing. And I was sitting in the backyard, and I was just kind of looking at the scene, and I felt like I had one of those Amos moments where God would say, hey, I'd like you to look and tell me what you see. And so I'm looking at these hills, and I'm looking at all these trees, and my eyes kind of focused in on this really massive oak tree. And I thought to myself, okay, God, I see this oak tree. And I just felt like the Lord was saying, hey, tell me about this oak tree. And so my mind immediately went to these strong branches and these great shady leaves, and providing a place for squirrels and birds, and kind of all the fruit, all of the kind of the magnificent part of the tree. And I felt the Lord just over and over going, look and tell me what you see. And I thought, I'm obviously missing the point. I'm getting a little frustrated. And I'm saying, man, this tree, and it survived so many great things, and it's beautiful, and it's bearing fruit, and that's an amazing tree, God. And again, God's saying, what do you really see? And then as I began to look at the tree, I looked at the trunk. And I said, God, I see a trunk. And I don't know how to explain this, but you just feel the good pleasure of God when you got the answer right. And I just felt like God was like, yeah, how would you feel about being a trunk in the kingdom of God? And I got to be honest with you, it was one of those but God moments, a David moment, like, no, God, I want to be one of the strong branches with lots of leaves and producing fruit. And I want, to be honest with you, God, I want people to see that I'm doing something productive for the kingdom. And, I feel like I'm at an age where I can still do stuff for you, Jesus. And God said, yeah, that's true, but we need more trunks in the kingdom. And, after a little while, I'm just kind of sitting there and going, I don't know if I want to be a trunk. And God, when God asks you a question, He's really just saying, because He's so polite, He's like, this is my first priority for you. If you say yes, I think this is where I'd like to go with you in this journey. And God's so gracious. If I had said no, I said, no, I want to be a branch, I think He would have been okay with that too. But I had to submit in my heart. I said, God, all right, what does it mean to be a trunk? And it goes back to the story. It's saying that we're going to do things that together that I may never ever see the fruit in. That there has to be a part of me that really learns to kind of live under that passage where John the Baptist says, God, you must increase, I must decrease. And I still feel like I'm a young guy. I still feel like I have a lot to offer. But I realized over the last few years that for me, the transition of understanding my relationship with God and what I have to give to the kingdom needed to change. It no longer needed to be about my branches or my leaves or what I could produce. It was really, could I be a support to this next generation and see them succeed? Maya Angelou was asked a question, what makes a leader great? And it was really simple, and she didn't even stop to even think about it. She says, a leader is great when she or he sees greatness in other people. And I realized that's what Jesus did the whole time. That's what Jesus was even doing with David. He said, David, you've done great things, but I want to teach you the last lesson in your life about leadership, about being a king, about being a prophet, being a priest, being like me. It's seeing greatness in other people. And when we get to these but God moments where we feel like we should kind of experience all the glory, we should bear all the fruit, I think what God's really reminding us of is John 15. That the closer we get to the vine, the more cut up we get, the more sacrifice we have to give, the more suffering we endure. But we get to give life in so many other directions because we're so close to Him. And I think for me, as I've read through this book and so many things weaving in and out about just the glorious picture of Jesus being our bridegroom, and how wonderfully Tina has weaved this in through this whole Old Testament narrative about the but gods. For me, that has been so powerful for me to be reminded again, hey, would I be a trunk in the kingdom of God? Would I just be a support? Put my roots deep into Jesus and hold up other people and their successes. Empower people to do greater things than I could ever imagine. And really to believe in that whole concept that the seeds I plant today in some form or fashion of helping others to know Christ better, to empower their dreams and their destiny, to really enjoy and applaud their successes more than my own, then I really believe that we are building great shady trees for a future generation. And David did that, didn't he? He said, you know what, God, it's not going to be about me. He could have built the temple. He really could have done it all by himself. But he proclaims this simple little statement in 1 Chronicles 29. But this task is too great, but not too great for God. And this would all be to God's glory. And I think as we, at least those in my generation, if we can start seeing that our responsibility is to give away the greater glory to the next generation, I think we'll see an amazing kingdom built. And the people of God where, like Ezekiel, the river will flow from the temple, and we'll see it get larger and wider and deeper the farther it is from us. And so our job is just to be the trickle. Our job is to be the trunk. Our job is to let it go and let God be God, and let the blood gods in our life really reveal to us the greater good, that He'll receive the glory, and others will experience great success in the kingdom. And if I can kind of live under that, as Tina has encouraged us in this devotional, then I'll feel like I've accomplished some great things in the kingdom. So I'm so grateful for this book, so grateful for Tina and what God's doing through her, and I just encourage you to read this. You'll get your own insights, but there are plenty in here that you'll just learn so many amazing things about who God is and the amazing but God moments in your life. So I hope you enjoy it, and it's been a blessing for me, and it'll be a blessing for you. God bless you guys.